Tennessee Tech head coach Bobby Wilder, the team 10-9 winners over nationally ranked UT Martin, setting up a game where they could potentially share the league championship and earn an AQ if things fall right their way. They're going to host Eastern Illinois. So, coach, just some thoughts about your squad, and we'll go from there.
Really good football game at Tennessee Martin. So much respect for Jason Simpson, for Martin. What a good football team. Those guys had won 6 games in a row and basically had been rolling everybody. And that game was just a back and forth. It was like a heavyweight fight, just each team going at each other. Both defensive lines dominated the game. We scored early, scored a touchdown on our first drive, kicked a field goal second drive, then we didn't score again, and then really held on at the end of the game. That was a high level football game that was played, and it didn't end until we took a safety at the end to run some clock off and try to change the field a little bit, and then they threw one in the end zone at the end of the game. So it literally came down to the last play of the football game. And those are the games you want to be played in November. I'm very proud of our team. We're currently 3-0 in November. We're on a 4-game win streak. We're 6-5, 5-2 in the league. So we put ourselves in position to, play in a meaningful game this weekend with a good Eastern Illinois team, and very, very excited about the progress we've made as a football team. And Kyle, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the progress, specifically defensively, we've made the last 3 weeks. We gave up 10 points to Lindenwood, 7 to Sanford, and we didn't give up a defensive point Saturday. So a lot of credit to those guys, coaches, players on that side of the ball. Of really, we're getting people healthy based off earlier in the year when we played the 2 FBS, 5 of our first 7 on the road, and we're sitting there at 2-5 with a lot of injuries. We're starting to get a lot of players back and healthy, and that's made a big difference for our football team.
Before I go to Barry, just in your game plan, did you think 10-9 would be the winning score of that game? What did you envision going into the game?
I knew, and we discussed this at a staff, that it was going to be a possession game because that was top 2 defenses in the league. Now the unknown was how explosive they had been on offense. Could we slow down the quarterback, who's a good player? The running back was over 1,000 yards. We held him to 13 yards on 13 carries. That was really the unknown. But you always anticipate when you go on the road. It's going to be really hard to win, and we thought this could be a low-scoring game. But if I'm being completely honest, Kyle, I would not have said 10-9 as a final score.
Gotcha. Let's go to Barry then from Prairie State Pigskin. He's got some questions for you.
Hi, good afternoon, Coach. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, first of all, your defense has 31 sacks and 22 turnovers, and I wanted to ask you what you would attribute those numbers to, and just has your defensive performance surprised you at all this year?
No, it hasn't. I got hired in December, so I inherited a defense that was number 1 in the league last year in 5 categories, and 4 all-conference players came back. Daniel Rickard, who was the National Player of the Week this week with 9 tackles, 4 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, forced fumble, pass breakup. He was back. Hudson Tucker was all-conference. The other DN, Aaron Swafford, linebacker, was all-conference, and then Tim Kutras, a safety, was first team all-conference, and he was a preseason All-American. So there's 4 really good players, and then we added to that from the portal. We've got a really good defensive staff, so I'm not surprised with the performance. We're top 10 in the nation right now in havoc plays, which is sacks, TFLs, QB hits, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions. So we create a lot of havoc plays during the game. And I mentioned earlier to Kyle, the last 3 weeks we've given up 10 points to Lindenwood, 7 to Sanford, and then our defense didn't allow a point to a Tennessee Martin team that had been averaging 40 points a game in their 6-game winning streak.
Well, you're facing a familiar face on Saturday, your son Drew, and I wanted to ask you, Coach Wilkerson described.
What's his name? Drew Wilder. Oh yeah, that kid. Yeah, I know him.
Coach Wilkerson described Drew as an Iron Man for Eastern. And I wanted to ask you, maybe put your opposing coach hat on and your father hat on, and what has Drew done to impress you?
Well, putting my father hat on first and foremost, I love him. I'm so proud of him. He's had quite a journey from high school to the Naval Academy to Iowa Western, now to Eastern Illinois. I'm so grateful for Chris and his staff for recruiting Drew. And he got there last year in January and started every game last year, played over 800 snaps. He'll probably play over 800 again this year, which is an incredible number for an offensive lineman, for a center, someone that gets contacted every play. And I think what Chris said is appropriate in terms of an Iron Man, but I'm more proud of who he is as a person, what he's doing academically there, and how well he's played football. If I put my opposing coach hat on, he's a good player. He runs everything up front. He sets the protections, the blocking schemes. He coordinates what they're doing with Pierce Holly, the quarterback, and they get a lot of challenging looks because they throw the ball so much, and they're so successful throwing the ball. They're very impactful on offense, and Drew does an excellent job for them from that standpoint. He's a good technician. He's smart. He's been around football. He's been in locker rooms his whole life, so he's heard it all. He knows a lot of guys on my staff. My offensive coordinator, Brian Scott, was with me when Drew was born. We were coaching together at Maine, then Old Dominion. So I've got guys on this staff that have known Drew the majority of his life. And just like me, everybody's really proud of the player he is now. And of course, from my standpoint, I'm very proud of the man he's becoming.
Drew mentioned that his time with his older brother and with you at ODU, he had some great memories of that. He said just being around the facility and being around the team was really cool when he was growing up. And can you share maybe some memories that you have? What comes back to you about those days and having your boys together with you at ODU?
Yeah, he was there all the time. When I got the Old Dominion job in 2007, his older brother Derek was 10, Drew was 6, and then we played 2 years later, so they were 12 and 8, and they're both on the sideline. Derek at age 12 was the first game in Old Dominion in 69 years. You know, the first kickoff, he runs out, gets the tee. Drew standing right behind me, waiting for his brother. And I just remember the look on their face in front of 20,000 people. You know, Derek gets the tee and Drew's down there, and just having them around all the time. You know, Drew would be at all the games. Drew would be on we had called this the Monarch March, where we'd walk through campus before the game. And when Taylor Heineke was our quarterback there, who's a 10-year NFL veteran now at quarterback, he's with the Chargers, Drew would be walking out front with Taylor, you know, behind me on the march. So he's always been in the locker room. He's always been on the sideline. The unfortunate part for coaches' sons is, for example, Drew's birthday is in December. Well, I was always on an airplane somewhere recruiting. I was never there. We had to celebrate his birthday on a different date because Dad was out of town. So there was that hard part of it as well. But the lessons he learned from the commitment, the teamwork, the adversity you go through, being around the guys academically, their majors, what they were doing. He learned so many of those lessons, and I'm really proud of the fact I got to share that with him. And then I'm proud of the fact that last year when I was out of coaching, you know, I was just running around the country following him. I got to spend 9 days out there. They had back-to-back home games when they upset Illinois State, and then the next week they beat McNeese, which really got their season started. And I was there for 9 days. I was in the office with Coach Wilkerson and Joe Davis, who's now at Western Illinois, and staff, and at practice, and just got to take him out to dinner and be around him. So I had that opportunity last year, which I'm so grateful for, that Coach Wilkerson let me be a part of, and then to be there. And of course, none of us knew I was going to be the head coach at Tennessee Tech the next year, coaching against Drew in Eastern Illinois. But we've had so many memories through football that we've been able to share, and just great experiences all the way from Maine when I was the offense coordinator there to Old Dominion, to him at Eastern Illinois, and now this game Saturday.
Yeah. Coach Wilkerson joked that you got to see his system and Coach Davis's system, you know, 2 teams in the league. He was joking about that. But I did.
Well, it really didn't help me with Western Illinois and Joe's system. I might have screwed it up more than anything.
But Drew mentioned that when you were there, he said, I kind of got I knew he, you know, really wanted to get back in. I could see that my dad wanted to get back in. You know, did that time at Eastern kind of push you forward, or were you already kind of thinking that you wanted to get back into coaching?
Well, ever since Old Dominion asked me to leave in 2019, I'd been interviewing for jobs, and then COVID hit in 20, and it was really hard. There weren't a lot of openings, and I thought I was going to do broadcasting. My agent had some things lined up, and then that fell through because a lot of the broadcasting jobs weren't there. And then I kept finishing second for head coaching jobs, and I had some P4 jobs kind of off the field doing certain things with some friends of mine that are coaches at P4, and I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a head coach. I love this part of it. I love the interaction with the players, and this one just seemed perfect from the standpoint of it. It's similar to Old Dominion. That Old Dominion was a startup. Everything had to be built, and this program here they'd been losing for so long. You know, they've had one 7-win season in the last 21 years. That was Watson Brown in 2011, and they haven't had a winning season in 12 years. And it just felt a lot like Old Dominion to me, that, you know, hey, I know how to do that. I have the blueprint. I know what will work there, and it just got me passionate. So I really, for the last 4 years, I've been doing private training and playing a lot of golf. My God, the fact I gave up all that golf, I should have my head examined. But the passion was there, the fire. I wanted to have another opportunity to be a head coach. And Drew's right about that. Spending those 9 days last year with Chris Wilkerson and the staff, and just being there every day in the meetings and observing, watching how they do it. Chris runs a really good program, so it was good to see that. And then, you know, you compare and contrast. I did a lot of traveling the last 4 years. I went to a lot of different schools with programs and kind of redid my notes and said, okay, that next opportunity, here's how I'm going to do it. And it was great for me, but young Drew Wilder was very observant on that comment.
The last one I had for you, Coach, is Pierce Holly needs 4 yards to throw for 3,000 yards this season. That will put him in some pretty elite company, guys named Romo and Garoppolo and Peyton here at AIU. And I wanted to ask you, what impresses you about Pierce Holly's game, and what does he do well?
His toughness, first and foremost. I mean, this has been a hard year for Pierce, just physically. But man, he's so impressive. There's so few guys in college football, especially at the FCS level, quarterbacks that can be on the right hash, for example, and throw a 15-yard comeback all the way across the field. Pierce is one of those guys. He can make every throw. He can make the touch throw. He can make that deep throw across the field. He can rip a dig ball in between two safeties. He can check down with touch to the back out of the backfield. He can move his feet to create space for himself. He's got the ability to make all the throws. And I saw that last year. And I actually, you know, I stayed in touch with Pierce. We talked a lot last year. I talked to him in spring about just suggestion things to work on. And you can see he's done it. He's so good at his progression. He's gotten really good at reading coverages, because as they've had success throwing the ball, he's throwing the ball for 275 yards a game. You really have to stress yourself defensively to play multiple coverages and disguise. And everybody's done it to him all year, and he's figured it out all year. He's figured out a way to be successful. So I'm really proud of him. I'd like him to get his 4 yards and then stop right there and call it a day Saturday. We'll give him that. But in all seriousness, Pierce and Drew are very close. My son Drew. So I'm happy for Pierce, and he's such a good football player.
Coach, thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Coach, thanks for your time not only today, but all season long, and best of luck to the Golden Eagles on Saturday.
You got it, Kyle. Thank you.